Bow, what's up everybody? Once again, it's Brandman Sean, and this is the first full Q&A with Justin Henderson, one half of the Grammy Award winning duo, The Business. If you haven't seen his first video talking a little bit more about his journey, he's really giving some important insights into the business. Definitely go ahead and watch that one. His answers are straight gold. So once again, I'm not gonna talk too much about the songs he's made. I'll play a few. Y'all have probably recognized some of them. And other than that, we hopping into the interview and I will see y'all at the end.
The business. Take it off. I wanna love you, and everybody wanna touch you. You're moving right, wanna see what's up under. Then back it up, beep beep like a trucker.
Bring that friend around and make it reconsider, and
And we like her too. And we like her too.
the my calligraphy, become a rap vandal. BSB Troll, yeah, I've got the game handled. New young Shuttlesworth, Jesus in his sandals.
Give it to you all night, so fly, girl. Me in the bush, yeah, all night.
Yeah, homie, this is what we do. 323 shit, 310 B.
All right, everybody, of course, it's Brandman Sean, and we are back again, finishing up. I want to do straight producer questions. So a lot of you guys that were producers had questions for Henny. We're going to just go ahead and jump right into that. I got a question from Take the Week Off. How and when do you get paid for your beat after an artist makes it into a song?
You know what? It's a very dynamic question because depending on the artist and the actual dates that they have for putting out a project, putting out an album, you know, are they major, are they independent, or you know, is it a situation to where, you know, you guys are working on a whole bunch of songs together? Depends on how you get paid. From an independent standpoint, they could be like, hey, I love this track, we're gonna try to put this out, and they're gonna put cash on your table.
Got it.
There's one way. With the major label, you know, they're gonna say, hey, we like this track, we want to hold it, and they might want to give you something that's called a producer declaration. A producer declaration is basically a one sheet that says we want to own the rights to this record and basically give you half of your advance for it's what's called the front end of your payment, and then they won't give you that back end until the record has already came out and all the signatures have been signed.
Gotcha.
So those are the main two that you're going to see, but a lot of it is just knowing that there's instances where a lot of people don't get paid because you know, a lot of artists just put their music out, but there's still ways that you can make sure that you monetize those situations where people just put your music out on SoundCloud or on DatPiff or, you know, wherever, and you can make sure that, you know, you contact whoever is a part of that project or that artist or whatever, and make sure you have those splits so that you know exactly what percentage you have. Or if they're being hard on you, go to your performing rights organization and say, hey, I produce on this, can I fill out a split sheet online to make sure? And then boom, you have at least some type of legality there to make sure you get some just due there.
Got you. Okay. And confidence on the track, as asking the question that pretty much a lot of producers want to know, especially today. Yeah. Branding as a producer, how do you brand yourself as a producer? I know, of course, you've done the tag. I remember reading that you remixed the whole Black album, and like all those kind of like efforts. What's the best way you see to brand yourself as a producer?
I think in 2017, the basic approach to branding is to be transparent, right? When it comes to what you're about, you know. If you're a producer who likes to do a certain genre, show that to the world in every avenue that you possibly can, whether it's something like on YouTube, on Facebook, on Snapchat, on Instagram stories, on Instagram itself. Regardless, put your brand out there to show people what it is that you do. I know a lot of people want to put their music out and just start selling, but start building your brand first. Yeah. Right? Building brand loyalty. And then on top of that, make sure that, you know, there's something that wants, you know, there's something different. Find what's different about your sound and your style and really magnify that. You know, I love chords, I love lead synths, I love, you know, I'm West Coast, but I have a lot of R&B textures to my music. I'm always magnifying that in everything that I'm doing, regardless if I'm doing hip hop tracks, R&B tracks, gospel tracks, or whatever. I'm trying to somehow put that in, and you know, a tag never hurts. but you know, make sure that the people can hear your tag, because some people's tags just
I was just talking about that the other day.
That? You know what I'm saying? You don't know who the tag was. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you're present, make sure you're out there, and collaborate. Okay. Collaborate. Just like something like this, you know, collaboration is everything to make sure that your brand sticks with other brands and people's audiences commingle. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And by that time, you start getting awareness about what you're doing, and sooner or later, you know, it starts building. But just be patient and give it time.
Okay. So put yourself out there first, so people even know who you are, and then give them something that you want to sell.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I also got a question from the Bull Bay. How do I get into licensing in sync? I already have my publishing together.
Now, I understand when somebody says they already have their publishing together, meaning they probably signed to a performing rights organization like ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC, and they have a publishing side, which I talked about before.
Right.
They have a company, and they sign themselves as a writer to their company, and so they have their publishing in order. They might not have a publishing deal, but when it comes to licensings and syncs, you're still dealing with these relationships. Like if you're in somewhere like Atlanta or LA or Nashville or anywhere that has a lot of TV and movie opportunities, you know, there are companies out there who will help get your music synced. Now understand that a lot of these companies out there will say, hey, we can help get your music on things like TV1 and Bravo and MTV and E, and they might, you know, not pay as well, and they might say, hey, for our services, we might give you half of the upfront money of that, but you'll still keep the back end all to yourself, and you'll still keep the copyright. If you're somebody getting started, think about the gain that you have. You might think, oh, they just want to take 50% of everything. No, they're actually saying if they're going to give you $1,000 for that sync, they're going to take $500, and then they're going to give you $500. But if that goes on and plays on a show and over 9 months generates $3,000, they're not taking any of that $3,000.
Right.
But you got to make sure your PROs, your BMIs, and everything was registered correctly to make sure you get that money that comes, you know, every quarter.
Got you. Perfect. That was great. We have 2 real technical questions.
Okay.
That's perfect because it's the producer section. Tips for mixing vocals on FL Studio or whatever DAW that you're using. This is from Brinksky, by the way.
Okay. I'm not a FL Studio guy. I was a Logic guy for years. Now, you know, I'm an iPad guy now. But you know, a seasoned engineer always told me, when you start to mix a track, start the vocal, the main lead vocal, with the kick and the bass, right? So you start mixing the kick, you're mixing the bass, and you're mixing the lead vocal. Why? Because all of those should be center, right? Now, when you start mixing the snare in, and the hi-hats, and the chords, and the guitars, everything around should start building at 360. If you start thinking about 360 videos, think about that as your music should always be in your vocal, your kick, your bass should always be in the center, and everything else should be panned to surround that. And sometimes you need to bring in that reverb. Sometimes you need to bring that delay, because that's what brings things apart.
Got you.
You put more reverb on something, it's going to push it further away. Yeah, the less, it's going to make it more in the front. So if you put reverbs and delay, it just kind of bounces things around. So you start mixing at 360 degree, and you start doing that, building one vocal. You take your I don't know, you know, your harmonies and all of those things, and you start panning them, and you start making a wide spectrum 360.
Gotcha.
How you should try to mix a record with vocals.
Perfect. And Eric Gross also wants to know if you could talk a little bit in depth about your use of stereo imaging, just generally how much room in terms of the sparing frequency should I leave for a vocalist or rapper?
Well, I mean, when it comes to stereo imaging, you know, you don't want to over widen a sound, right? Some sounds, take for instance a piano or a Rhodes, and you want to separate it, right? You might take a stereo imaging plugin, and instead of taking it, you want to take it all the way out, but it might be too wide. For the widest things you should have out there are some of the, you know, the high-end strings, or, you know, some of the stuff that is very airy out there, because your ear wants to hear what's in the center first and then move outward. So it's like, make sure that when you use a stereo widening, you don't use it on much, you know what I mean? And if he's talking about mastering, you know, that's, you know, use it sparingly. Use everything sparingly, whether it's on a specific sound or just the whole track itself. You don't ever want to over widen anything, you know, when it comes to stereo imaging and making sure, you just want to make sure you place the right instruments in different sections so everything feels like it's moving around you, and that's how you keep a full sound.
Perfect. Yeah. Hey, so hopefully that was helpful for you guys. If it was, definitely let me know because I'll do more things like this. And also make sure you go to Henny the Business channel on YouTube. Subscribe to him because it is super dope. The Adventures of Beat Making, Henny's Hangouts. Like, he has so many things that are just useful and just interesting to watch. It's, like I said, it's just the production value is out of the roof. I haven't seen anybody on YouTube, especially in music, that does what he does. And on top of that, if you're a producer, if you're a songwriter, check out hennythebusiness.com because he does consultations as well. Other than that, we got the artist Q&A left. It's coming soon, and you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button.